Well, now, tensions in the Conservative Party look like reaching boiling point after Iain Duncan Smith's shock resignation. He's been accused this morning of trying to cause maximum damage to the Conservative leadership. His former colleague, the Pensions Minister Ros Altman, says it was all part of his campaign to get Britain out of the EU. Well, I'm joined now by one of Mr Duncan Smith's allies in the party, Bernard Jenkin. He's chair of the Public Administration Committee. He's in Chelmsford. And a very good morning to you, Mr Jenkin. I mean, it looks like this opening salvo has been fired in a Conservative civil war here. Iain Duncan Smith on this morning, defending, explaining his reasons. Amber Rudd's just been on my programme saying she's a bit puzzled as to why he resigned.
Well, anybody who watched Iain being interviewed on Andrew Marr this morning can't possibly doubt his integrity, his passion for what he has stayed in politics for, which is to help the least able to help themselves back into economic activity, back into work. That's why he started the Centre for Social Justice. As soon as he stepped down as leader of the Conservative Party, it was his experience as being leader that completely changed his politics. He once told me that what he'd seen on the streets of Glasgow, in other inner cities, had completely changed his politics, his personal priorities. The only reason he came into the government to serve David Cameron at all was in order to pursue this agenda. You know, here am I'm a fellow Eurosceptic, and I got quite frustrated with him because he would not resign over the European question. But no, for him, the whole issue of this welfare reform and helping vulnerable people has been to him much, much more important than anything else in his life.
Therefore, Mr Jenkin, by implication, and Amber Rudd addressed this, she feels they're being smeared, those that still support that budget. You're saying, and Mr Duncan Smith said, it wasn't a one-nation budget because of those cuts for middle-income earners, which was part of your manifesto, because that was then balanced on one side by these further cuts to disability benefits.
So I am being filmed in the grounds of my mother-in-law's house, and she does not need to receive a £200 per year winter fuel allowance. Iain Duncan Smith has always been denied any suggestion that he could start reining back on some of these very generous benefits to better off pensioners. He's always been told these cuts have got to bear on working families, people trying to get back into work, disabled people who want to work. Now, just ask yourself, should we be protecting rich pensioners in order to be able to cut benefits for people who are trying to do the right thing and struggling with their lives and their families? This has got out of balance, and he's been struggling with this balance for some time. And frankly, for the government to keep saying, oh, we're very perplexed, we don't understand why Iain Duncan Smith has resigned. I mean, they are deliberately trying to fog the atmosphere. It is deeply insincere for them to pretend they don't know why Iain Duncan Smith has resigned. And it is just, they don't want to hear, they cannot hear. And I think the highest level point on this is about how Downing Street operates. They've just taken the same playbook as Brown and Blair. Everything is dictated from the top for short-term political vantage. Everything is tactical. This cannot go on. And the point Iain Duncan Smith made today about cabinet government, and Jacob Rees-Mogg has made the same point, and I've written about it in The Observer today. We need to reset how Whitehall operates. You have government departments with secretaries of state running them because they should have responsibility. And the Chancellor and the Prime Minister are just part of a team. The Prime Minister is meant to be primus inter pares. He's not meant to be a dictator. The Treasury is not meant to control everything that goes on in government departments. And Iain is not the only minister who's got deeply frustrated with short-term decisions which have huge impact on government policies in departments, which haven't been properly thought through. I mean, Amber Rudd should look at her energy policy. Our energy policy is a disaster. We are talking about running out of electricity over the next few years because there has been so much short-termism in energy policy. We've had 6 years in government to grip this, and we haven't. And we've now got the most expensive electricity in Europe, just about, and the least secure energy supplies. And right. we can't even build our first nuclear power station. It's still in chaos. That is an example of where the Treasury has ridden roughshod over the Department for Energy,
Right.
and we've still got chaos in policy. And I appreciate ministers in government have to put a brave face on things because they have to show unity. But I'm afraid Iain Duncan Smith on this question just snapped.
All right. Well, given the callousness, I suppose you describe George Osborne as presiding over, how fit is he, in your estimation, to become leader of your party and Prime Minister?
Well, we are not looking at a leadership election in the short term. George Osborne has had an extremely difficult job to do as Chancellor. He has, in many ways, has done a good job. We're now borrowing only £1 in every 14. Just remember what he inherited. We were borrowing £1 in every £4 that was being spent on police, on hospitals, on defence.
But
when
fitness
we first
for
got
leadership.
in. We've made huge progress. I'm not going to discuss the leadership today. The point is, this is a wake-up call for the Conservative Party to look at how we run Whitehall, how we can change into a more collegiate, more collective style of government, set aside this European argument which has long divided the Conservative Party, how we go forward after this referendum to have a more collective, more collegiate, more understanding, more trusting leadership of Whitehall than we've had. This constant briefing that comes out of Number 10 about ministers, against ministers who are saying inconvenient truths. What we want is people to be able to talk about the truth. I think the British public are desperate for ministers to share truth with each other and then do the best thing in the national interest.
OK, Chairman, thank you very much indeed. Bernard Jenkin there, the Chair of the Public Administration Committee.